Hey everybody, this is the One Nerd, and you're watching the One Nerd Reviews, where I review things, be it movies, TV shows, video games, comics, books, toys, whatever it may be. I review it and give my opinion on them. And today, we're going to be talking about Detective Pikachu.
So there I was. I woke up with a heavy case of amnesia in the middle of nowhere. The only clue to my past is Harry's name and address inside this hat. So I made my way to the apartment, and that's when I found you and your stapler gun.
Stop talking! You're a hallucination!
You're a hallucination.
So you're a talking Pikachu with no memories who's addicted to caffeine.
I could stop whenever I want. These are just choices. Another round, extra shot, black as night. Thank you, sweetie. I don't know. Maybe Harry got in too deep. Mixed up with the wrong crowd, that kind of thing. Look, you can talk to humans. I can talk to Pokemon. And if you want to find your pops, we're gonna need each other.
No, I don't need a Pokemon.
What about a world-class detective? Ah, my clues!
What is all this?
Harry is still alive. Case closed, but still open until I solve it. All right, here it is. Harry faked his own death. Or somebody else faked Harry's death. Or Harry faked somebody else's death. That last one doesn't work at
No.
all. Now, obviously, I've dealt with this putz before, so I'll just do it again.
Hey, bud. What are you doing?
I can't do it when people are watching. Get me the hell out of here! Pika, Pika! That's a twist. That's very twisty.
Get him! He's barely moving.
Don't tell him that. Oh, he's on a bike. Quick, get in front of him.
Stop.
Oh, no. He's going down hard, Tim. Should have worn a helmet.
Detective Pikachu, just to kind of sort of a baseline here before I start talking about anything in detail with the movie. This is going to be a spoiler review. I'm going to be talking about my entire, my entire deal of this. If you haven't seen the movie and if you don't want spoilers for whatever reason, then just come back and watch it later, because you can watch it later and then, see if your opinions agree with mine or if they don't. Whatever. Just spoilers. Just don't watch it. You don't want spoilers because it's gonna happen. Okay, just go away. Come back later if you don't want spoilers. But for the rest of us, let's keep going. This movie is difficult to really draw a conclusion on, and it's really because it is a movie that, honestly, when you think about a movie like this, when you think about this premise, when you think about what this is, this is a movie based on an anime. This is a movie based on a video game. This is a property that is being made into a live-action movie. Your immediate thing is to think, obviously, it's going to be bad. It's going to be a bad movie, just boom. That's the stereotype that we have kind of come up with all the other bad video game and anime-based movies. But if I'm being perfectly honest, we're reaching an interesting era right now where these movies are getting good. They're not getting perfect, mind you, again, but they're not getting bad. I mean, a prime example is, you can't really see it too well, but I got the poster for Alita Battle Angel. That's a movie that is weirdly good. It's not good in adaptation sense, like it's all over the place if you want to look at it as an adaptation of Battle Angel Alita manga. But as a movie, it's perfectly good. Changes around a few things. It kind of rushes things and tries to smash too much into one thing. But if you just look at it as a movie, as just a regular audience goer who's never read the original manga, it's pretty good. And this, I think, is the case as well with Detective Pikachu, where it's not a perfect movie, it's not a good movie, it's not a fantastic movie. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so great. No, but it's also not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's not even close. I've seen so many movies that have been so much worse than this, and I think that is going to be good in the long run for future movies based on the Pokemon franchise, because I do think that movies based on this franchise in America in live action could really work out, and I'll be looking over that a little bit later as well. In regards to this movie, however, it does a lot of things right. It has a lot of really good concepts. It has a lot of things that I wanted to see in this movie. However, it also has a lot of things that do not work. Let's talk about the elephant in the room in regards to this movie. The big thing, the big, huge thing that has to do with this movie. I think the reason that the movie was made, the reason the movie is as big as it is, and the reason that a lot of people are going to see this movie, and that's Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds should not be in this movie. He should not be Pikachu. He should not be a part of this. He should not be this, or at least this version of Ryan Reynolds. I think that there's a version of Ryan Reynolds that could work in this, but the problem is that the version of Ryan Reynolds that we get is the same Ryan Reynolds that we've seen in so many other things, in Blade Trinity, in Deadpool, and Green Lantern, and that Ryan Reynolds does not fit into this, because this does not work with Ryan Reynolds in it, because Ryan Reynolds is in it. They have written the movie in a style, and they've written his character in a style that fits with Ryan Reynolds. It seems like, I'm not sure if the script was written for Ryan Reynolds, or if it just has a happy coincidence that it just seems to have been written this way, or if they changed it around once they figured out Ryan Reynolds was going to be in it. But the movie is filled with these out of place jokes from Pikachu. Like, Pikachu has all these like one-liners, and because the whole thing is that the only person who can understand Pikachu is the main character, played by Justice Smith, and so he always has like these little one-liners, like to comment on the situation that's going on that nobody else can hear, but he can, that's why he can still say it and not be hindered by other people like interrupting or reacting to it or what have you. He can just say these things, and a lot of these jokes are seen in the trailer, and you probably know what I'm talking about. Stuff like in the arena. In the arena, there's a joke where Pikachu is trying to, do it like a thunderbolt or a thundershock or what have you, and he can't do it. And his excuse when doing it is that I can't do it when people are watching. Which, there's also a couple fart jokes. There's a pee joke. There's a weird I think there's a weird sex joke in it. I'm not sure. Like, there's a joke where Pikachu, as Ryan Reynolds, basically says like, "Oh, nobody can understand me. All they want to do is like, they think I'm cute though. They want to pet me and fluff my fur, put their finger in me." Or it's weird. And there's also a weird smell my finger joke. This movie has a smell my finger joke that Pikachu says as Ryan Reynolds. This script is really bad. It's a really bad script, not just for that reason, but just the plot in general. Let me go over the plot real quick. So the plot revolves around, again, Justice Smith's character is the son of I was going to say famous detective. I don't really think he's famous, but he's a detective. And he's been looking into this case, and what happens, he gets in too deep, and he supposedly gets killed in a car wreck. And Justice Smith is basically going to this place called Rhyme City. This is a place that's supposed to be a haven for Pokemon, where Pokemon and humans can live harmoniously together. There's no battles, there's no training, no Pokeballs, no capturing, nothing like that. Just a place where humans and their partner Pokemon can live together in peace and harmony. And that really kind of is where the kind of the issue starts. He goes to that city to try to kind of piece together the remains of his father's life and to kind of mourn for him, because at this point, his father has, I don't want to say abandoned him, but he's focused more on his work with Pokemon and his work with Detective than with him. And because of this, Justice Smith's character has kind of is kind of grown distant from Pokemon. They don't really make it clear too much. Like, a lot of this movie is not explained too well. It's not explained too well because his father was distant from him, and the reason that his father was distant from him was because of Pokemon. Tim has, which is Justice Smith's character, has become distant from Pokemon, doesn't want anything to do with Pokemon anymore. And that's really shown, that's starting to shown well in the very first sequence. The very first sequence is actually pretty cool and is a sequence that I think would really work well in future Pokemon movies, because the first scene is where Tim and his friend are in his hometown, and they're going out there, and Tim's friend wants to catch Pokemon, but come to find out that what he's really wanting to do is he's wanting Tim to catch a Pokemon of his own, and the Pokemon there is Cubone. And there's a great sequence where Tim tries to capture Cubone. There's like a really cool looking Pokeball, and it really does well to show them activating the Pokeball to throw it, to capture the Cubone, and then the capture state, even though it fails miserably and Cubone doesn't actually end up getting caught and attacks Tim in a really great sequence. Again, this is what I want more out of this universe. This is something I want more out of a Pokemon movie. To see these characters interacting with Pokemon in this way that we remember from the games. To train them, to battle them, to capture them, to do all of this stuff. That is what should have been in it. But the problem is that as soon as that happens, as soon as that sequence is over, we immediately start in with the plot of this movie, which he gets a phone call that says, "Oh, I'm sorry, your father is dead. We found his..." It's weird. They determine that he's dead because they found his car like smoking, and his body and his partner Pokemon's body was missing. But they assume, well, we can't find him. He must be dead. Sorry. I don't know if like they looked for a little bit and just determined that, oh, we can't find him in this general vicinity, so he must be dead. I don't know what's wrong with the police of Rhyme City. They must not be very good at their jobs, or at least lazy. I don't know. But that's what happens. They just say, oh, we can't find him. He must be dead. I don't know. Can't find him here. It's determined if you're not here. I mean, it is a video game universe, so maybe they figured that he died and his body disappeared. I don't know. It could go off those video game rules. So Tim, goes up to Rhyme City on the train, and we're greeted to this little video presentation kind of giving us exposition on Rhyme City, which describes it, as I did, as a haven for Pokemon. And it kind of is a warning sign for this movie where it says, oh, this place doesn't have any battles, doesn't have any training or capturing, all the things that kind of make Pokemon. Nope. Just Pokemon and humans just living together, and you're just sitting there and you're just thinking, man, all right, let's tell this story. Let's kind of see if this will turn out well. I mean, we know there's a battle sequence in it because we've seen the trailers and we've seen that there's an arena, but still, it's just kind of thinking like this isn't going to be really a Pokemon story. This is kind of going to be a detective movie with Pokemon in it, which could be cool, but it doesn't turn out that way. Again, we'll get to that a little bit later. So, Tim gets to Rhyme City. He goes to his father's apartment before meeting up with a police chief with a Snubbull in a kind of funny scene. He gets the keys to his father's apartment. He goes to the apartment, kind of looks around. You can see that his father's recreated his childhood room. We can see all this Pokemon stuff in there. And that's really cool because it really lends itself to a kind of world building and lore that they did a little bit in this movie, but not a lot. They didn't do as much as I would have liked. But there's all these little posters like that talk about different events that have gone on. There's actually an event there that talks about a fight between Articuno and Steelix. I think it's Steelix, which I don't want to give you a spoiler alert on that particular fight, but Articuno's gonna win that one. Which I should actually mention this a little bit before, because while on the train during that video, there's actually a really cool sequence where we get to see where before they say there's no battles in the city, there's a really cool sequence where they show like what looks like the Pokemon League where we see a trainer who I can't imagine isn't supposed to be Ash. Because he's dressed sort of like him and what have he, kind of has like that mannerisms. But we see an Ash-looking character and another character, and they got their Pokemon out and they're about to battle. But before they battle, they cut to a thing that says, "Oh, there's no battles here. It's none of that." It's like, well, go back to the thing. I want to see the thing. I want to see them battling. Come on. Okay, let's move on. Let's get to it. So, Tim searches around the apartment, finds the Pikachu, finds out that the Pikachu can talk. Oh, it's a crazy thing. There's a sequence where I'm not going to go over every little single thing here because it's not really that important, but there's a gas that Tim's father apparently had, that he found, that he was investigating, that's called R. And this gas apparently makes Pokemon go crazy. It's kind of like the in Zootopia, if you've seen that. It's kind of like the Night Howlers in Zootopia, where normally these Pokemon are nice and docile and they're, friendly with humans and what have you, but they get a whiff of this and they go crazy. They get purple eyes. They attack random people, and this gas kind of gets out, and some Apom, which are little purple monkey things, they get out and they suddenly attack Pikachu and Tim, and they have to make their escape, and they have to go up top of the rooftops and go down and what have you. It's a nice little sequence. I'll give it that. So we learn a little bit more about this. Tim and Pikachu learn about each other, and Tim learns that this Pikachu was his father's partner. And something happened. Pikachu has amnesia. He doesn't know what happened. All he knows is that this name and address was in his hat, so he went to investigate. He knows he's a detective because he can feel it in his jellies. And so we're off to find out what exactly is going on here. Around this time, we're also introduced to the other character in the movie, which is a female reporter of sorts. She is kind of like a BuzzFeed news person who just kind of writes listicles about Pokemon all day. This is actually a really funny sequence in the movie where she's trying to act like a really serious reporter who says, just trying to get the scoop. It's like, I'll find out why your dad was investigating this and why he's disappeared and all that. And I'm going to find out what's going on. And Tim's like, what are you, a reporter or something? It's like, oh, okay, I'm not a reporter. Okay, you caught me. I just make top 10 lists about the cutest Pokemon. It's like hey, newsflash, they're all cute. It's actually, that was a really cool sequence. I really like that. But yeah, that's the other character. She's got a side duck. She'll be sort of integral in this whole thing. She's kind of a semi-love interest. So we go through all that, skipping a lot of stuff. We find out that the person behind Rhyme City and the person who owns everything in the city, including the news station that the female reporter works for, is this... I can't for the life of me remember his name, but honestly it does not matter. But it's an older dude who created the city, traveled the world to figure out the mysteries of Pokemon and trying to be one with them and all this stuff. And he came back here and he built this whole city, this whole empire where Pokemon can be. And he's going to be throwing this big old parade, this whole big old party, and saying, oh, this Pokemon are going to be together. And he's got this actually really cool that I'll incorporate later. He has his Pokemon partner is a Ditto, which, though, let me just say real quick, the way they did Ditto in this is one of the absolutely perfect things they did in this movie. Ditto in this movie, he looks perfect. When he transforms, like they get the whole thing right with like the little beady eye things. And what's cool is that we'll find out later is that he can actually turn into humans as well, and like just different objects as well as different Pokemon, and it works super well. I was really impressed with how they did Ditto in this. Again, the look, the feel, I mean, the whole CG of it, like the transformations, the whole thing, it worked really well. I really liked it. I just wanted to gush about that one thing because I don't want this whole to be a negative thing. I want to talk about the things I liked in this movie, and the way they did Ditto in this is really awesome. I loved it. It's a small thing, it's a small touch, but it really does well for, kind of incorporating the lore and the world building into this world of Pokemon. So the old man in question, he's in a wheelchair. He's kind of like got some sort of like disease or something, but yeah, he's wheelchair bound, and obviously he's older. He's this and that. And he calls Tim up to his office, and he's got this really cool office. It's got like big old statues of Arceus and Dialga and Palkia, which are like the gods of the Pokemon universe. Or Arceus is god, and Dialga and Palkia control time and space. But you know what I mean. They're basically the gods. And there's a cool sequence where an Eevee evolves into a Flareon for some reason, which doesn't really have anything to do with anything. It's just, sort of cool that they just showed the evolution process in that, because we only get that like one other time in the movie. But he calls him up to his office and he says, hey, I was working with your father on this. I want to find him as much as you do. Like, let me help you. Let me kind of point you in the right direction on what this R is. And he sends him down to the docks. They go to the docks, they try to find the distribution of where this R is coming from, and they track everything down to a underground Pokemon fight arena, where we see a really great sequence where a Gengar faces a Blastoise, which is, again, I want to praise this movie when it does something right, and this is right. And the thing is that what they do right is the thing that they want to try to distance themselves from, because this is a Pokemon battle. This doesn't have anything to do with like the detective part, or like the investigations, or like the friendship bit, or any of that. Like, when those sequences happen, the movie drags a lot. Like, there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of exposition, there's a lot of things happening, and I could tell, there were kids around me. Obviously there were kids around me in this, obviously for kids movie, and a lot of the sequences, unless Pikachu was like making some sort of like poop or pee joke, it was dragging. It really was, because there's a lot of stuff they have to go with this. There's a lot of exposition they have to get out. But this sequence where we see the underground battle arena with Gengar versus Blastoise, that was cool. That was really great. And they have these Pokemon, I can't remember their names. They're like in a later gen, but they have like the speakers for ears, and they like put out bass. Like they're actually showing Pokemon being used for things in a city, sort of like the dinosaurs in the Flintstones or what have you. And it's really cool. And we find out that I guess the owner of the arena had a run-in with this Pikachu before, and also the Charizard. So we have a great sequence where Charizard battles Pikachu, even though Pikachu, because he has amnesia, he can't remember how to do any of his moves. So it's really great. It's really fantastic. It turns out this guy has some R gas on him. He uses it on Charizard because he wants to get revenge on this Pikachu for messing him up. And the Charizard goes crazy. But when the Charizard goes crazy, all the vials of R that he has in his coat also break, and all the Pokemon go crazy. And it's this great sequence where all the Pokemon just kind of go all out, and we can see everything going on. And Pikachu and Tim have this great idea where there's a Magikarp, and they say, "Oh, that's Magikarp is like the most worthless Pokemon." It's like, no, Magikarp can evolve. It just kicked a little bit, so they literally kick it. And it doesn't seem to work, but then it evolves into Gyarados, and there's this giant Gyarados facing off against this Charizard, and it uses like a water attack, and they get flooded out. Again, this is the stuff that really should have been in this movie, stuff that showcases the Pokemon and what they can do in regards to, again, battling, because that's the whole point of Pokemon. So anyway, blah blah blah, all that happens. They get this lead from the reporter girl that there is this secret facility, and they go there, and it turns out this facility was a place where they would be able to, where they were housing the Pokemon Mewtwo. And we find out that Mewtwo's in this movie, and he plays an important role in this movie. They were housing Mewtwo there, but I actually should mention while we get to this point that Mewtwo was actually in the beginning of the movie, because we actually see that it seems as though Mewtwo was the one who caused Tim's father's car to crash, and it seems like he took him away because the old guy kind of showed him a holographic surveillance thing where it says, "Oh, Mewtwo showed up, and this is the most powerful Pokemon in the world," and he supposedly took Tim's father away or something. So we get to this underground facility. We can see that they're experimenting with Pokemon to make them stronger and evolve differently and make them bigger. And they have these, just different things. And there's a couple of Greninja that get let out remotely by who we think is the bad guy, which is actually the old guy's son. But we think he's the bad guy. He remotely releases these Greninja. They get chased around, and he releases them. They get chased around, and all this kind of stuff happens. Now, what's also a really cool sequence in there is that there is a area in the facility where it looks like they're experimenting on making a certain type of Pokemon bigger. The tortoise Pokemon. I can't remember the name of it. I'm really bad with names sometimes. But it's the final evolutionary state of one of the starter Pokemon. I believe it. Again, I'm trying to think of it in my head, but I can't do it. But it's basically a big turtle, a big turtle with like trees and what have you growing on it. And they look into this facility and they said, oh, though they're trying to make them bigger. It's like, oh, they don't seem very big to me. They just seem regular size. Maybe they haven't done it yet. But when they're being chased by the Greninja, they have a Psyduck. The female reporter is a Psyduck. And there's this whole thing where, oh, well, we can't get Psyduck stressed out because he's going to explode and do a big psychic attack. But they're getting chased by these Greninja, so they figure, well, this is our best strategy to try to get away from these. So they make Psyduck all stressed out. Psyduck releases a giant psychic attack, and the Greninja, they go away. But then the ground starts lifting up, and you're thinking, what's going on here? What's happening? Did Psyduck's psychic ability cause this? Is it that strong? And things are lifting up, and the worlds and the earth is lifting, and they're splitting apart. And then you realize, oh my god, they actually did it. Like, they actually did make that tortoise Pokemon bigger, because it turns out what's being lifted up, and the reason that the earth is coming up like that, is because there are these tortoise Pokemon that this isn't like a forest. This is the tortoise Pokemon that are just underground, and they just came up for a little bit because the Psyduck psychic ability, woke them up for a little bit. And again, it's a really great sequence that uses these good ideas for what these Pokemon are used for, and does something good with them. So what kind of happens with this is that Tim and Pikachu have a falling out for some reason, and they're going to they know the information. They think they know the information. They think they know what's going on, and that Mewtwo's involved in this, that the sun's involved in this, and all that sort of thing. So the female reporter and Tim go back to Rhyme City, and the parade's about to go down. They got these big Pokemon balloons and what have you. And Tim goes to the old guy's office. Meanwhile, Pikachu has stumbled upon the crash site, and he looks around and he finds a clue, and it's like, oh my gosh, I figured it out, and I have to go rescue Tim back at the city. But Tim's already at Rhyme City. And actually, there's one other sequence I forgot. I completely blew past it because it was really weird. But during the whole earth moving thing that the tortoise Pokemon cause, Pikachu gets hit like fatally, and it looks like he's about to die. And Tim has been like sort of slightly hinted at throughout this entire movie that while he does not want anything to do with Pokemon, he is immensely knowledgeable on Pokemon. Like, he knows the moves, he knows what to do, he knows everything about Pokemon, the different types, the different names, and what have you. He knows all this stuff, but he kind of keeps it buried because of his bias towards Pokemon, because they caused his father not to be with him that much. But Pikachu is gone, or not gone. I'm sorry. He looks like he's about to die, and there's a kind of a wandering Bulbasaur just kind of going around, just walking around, and it's really cute. It's a really cute sequence. And Tim asks for its help. He says, "Please help me." It's like the reporter girl's like, "They can't understand you, but they can feel my feelings," which is something that the Pikachu said before. And it turns out this Bulbasaur did understand him, and he's taken him to this place where he can get healed. And for some reason, that place is Mewtwo. So, oh no, Mewtwo's here, and we still think at this point that Mewtwo was the one that took his father. And he says he revives Pikachu, and he goes, "Okay, now you're here. You brought the sun like we agreed. Now I can go ahead and start, bringing back your father." But oh no, it was a trap, and the the old guy's son is there, and he traps Mewtwo, and he puts him in a little containment thing and takes him away somewhere. And they don't follow up on it. They don't try to chase him because that's not part of the plot. But anyway, they know that he did it, and so that's how they know that the son is behind this. So that's why Tim goes off and, you know, does the thing with, tries to go to Rhyme City and tell the old guy that his son is up to no good. But when Tim gets to the old guy, he sees him with like this weird like neuro thing on his head or something, and he goes, "Oh, what's going on?" It's like, "Ha! I fooled you. I was the bad guy the whole time, and here's Mewtwo. I have him in my office in this little containment thing. Haha! I fooled you. Mewtwo didn't actually do it. It was me the whole time. I was trying to use Mewtwo's powers because apparently Mewtwo has the ability to put the souls of human, not just the souls, but the entire being of a person into the body of a Pokemon, but only if the Pokemon is like severely stressed out, which is why the R is there, which that's never been a thing. Like, it just seemed like they needed something to do, so they just made up this ability that Mewtwo can do, which again, it works two ways, because he does have the ability to... it's weird, because again, he has the ability to apparently put humans, not their souls, not their beings, but the entire thing into a Pokemon, and he wants to do this because he wants a full... fusion of man and Pokemon. He wants them to be a literal fusion of man and Pokemon. And of course, he doesn't want to be, disabled anymore. He doesn't want to be in a wheelchair. So he uses this neuro thing to control Mewtwo. And Mewtwo is now controlled by this dude. And it's weird to see Mewtwo like actually talking, because Mewtwo's always been portrayed as just like talking psychically, and he has been in this movie too. But now he's actually talking with his mouth with the voice of this old dude, which is weird. So apparently this guy's plan is that these balloons are all filled with the R gas, and it's going to cause all the Pokemon to go crazy, and then him as Mewtwo will put all the people inside the bodies of these Pokemon, which, spoiler alert, he actually does. He actually ends up doing it. The gas goes off, and he says, "Oh, people of Rhyme City, I'm here to release you from being human, and now you and your Pokemon are going to be together, and take that." And so he does it. He does all that thing. But oh no, Pikachu came back to help him, and he battles Mewtwo for a little bit, and there's a whole thing. There's actually a really good sequence where they do battle, and this guy as Mewtwo actually grabs Pikachu, and he goes, "What are you doing, dude? Like, a Pikachu can't beat Mewtwo. What are you, crazy or something?" And Pikachu's like, I didn't need to beat you, dude. I just needed to distract you." And he looks over, it's like, "Oh, Tim's there with the next to the guy because he just left him there and didn't think anything was going to happen." And he takes the psychic thing off, and oh no, he doesn't control Mewtwo anymore, and so that saves the day. Before we get to that, actually, there's more stuff with Ditto that I really liked, because it turns out, what's actually really cool, is that it turns out that there are two characters in this movie. There's the son, which we do see the son regularly, but we also see the son again wearing sunglasses and not saying anything. And we also see another character who is like a personal assistant to the old guy, who's got like pink hair and wears like these pink armbands, and she also wears sunglasses and never talks. Turns out those two people were Ditto in disguise, which I really like. So we see the girl again, she takes off her sunglasses, and she's got the little Ditto eyes on there. It's always Ditto the whole time. There's this great sequence where this Ditto just transforms into all the Pokemon that we've seen before in the movie, like a Machamp and a Cubone and the Squirtle and what have you, and all these different Pokemon to battle Tim with in the office, so he can gain access to this guy to take the psychic thing off. And it's a really great sequence, and I really like it. And again, that's more the thing that I wanted to see in this movie. But honestly, the last act of the movie is just a superhero movie. Like, it transforms from a detective story, which tries to do a little bit of investigation, looking around and all this, and the last act is just a superhero movie because they needed like a big set piece battle for this movie, which really you could have done anyway, but you wanted to make Detective Pikachu, also wanted to have your big battle. You wanted to have your cake and eat it too, which I guess could work if the story weren't so convoluted and the villain's plot made more sense, or if the script was better written and the jokes and what have you. Again, all of this is I want to make it clear again. It's not a bad movie. It's just a mediocre movie. But to kind of wrap up the whole plot thing, it actually turns out that once we figured out that once we were told that Mewtwo has the ability to put humans in the bodies of Pokemon, we should have realized what was going on. Turns out that during the car crash, Tim's dad actually did get kind of messed up, and so when this Mewtwo came along, Tim's father and the Mewtwo were actually working together to get him out of there. So he said, "Oh, I'm going to help you. I'm going to put your soul into this Pikachu." And then what's weird is that he says that the only way that he can reverse it is if Tim's dad brings his son to him, which I don't know why that was a caveat. I don't know why that was a requirement for like Mewtwo to like reverse what he did. It doesn't. Again, it's weird. It's just a script that's like just filled with things that don't make any sense but have to be there so that the plot can move forward. It's not a very good script. Like, you would think that the studio that has the one of the biggest licenses for children and the biggest video game license in the world would put somebody better on there as a screenwriter. You think that they would do that, but they didn't. Because if I'm being quite honest, this movie really seems like just a cash grab in a lot of ways, at least in regards to the writing. Because this seems to be a movie where they just said, the plot doesn't matter, it's a Pokemon movie, people are going to see it. Now, I will say that a lot of effort was put into things like the live-action Pokemon, because I think that they knew that this was going to be like the front-facing marketing on this, is that nobody's going to see this movie for the plot, nobody's seeing this movie for the characters, nobody's seeing this movie for the dialogue. People are only going to see this movie for the live-action Pokemon, and in all regards, that's the only good thing about this movie, is seeing these Pokemon, seeing them, the Pokemon you remember, seeing them battle, seeing them interact with people, and seeing all that. That is all this movie is good for. And I kind of got off track, and I apologize for that, because I forgot to mention that Mewtwo put Tim's dad in the Pikachu, and so he reverses that, and surprise, Tim's dad was Ryan Reynolds the whole time. And because that should have been another clue that what it was, because they were hiding the identity. They showed Tim's dad in like flashbacks a lot, but they always like hid his face and hid his like every detail about him. So we should have realized this was the case. But yeah, Tim's dad was Ryan Reynolds the whole time, and they bond together, and they realize that, Dad, you're not so bad after all. You're not as bad as I thought you was. I'm going to stay with you for a little bit and be detectives together. And yeah, that's the movie. Again, like I was saying before, it's not a bad movie. It's not a good movie. It's a very mediocre movie. Honestly, even giving it a C- would be seems like sort of harsh. Again, it's a C, honestly. There's a lot of effort put into this movie in regards to design, in regards to the Pokemon, in regards to everything else. I mean, I obviously we know how turning a cartoon into live action can go bad. I mean, we've all seen the backlash with live action Sonic the Hedgehog, but these Pokemon were really done well, and every single one of them seems to work in a live action setting. Some of them look a little bit weird because they're cartoons and they got these big eyes, but they do have some Pokemon that I was really excited to see, like Machamp, and there's even like a short little sequence where you see a Togepi in the back in the background. That's great. I want to see more of that. So I think if this franchise is going to continue. If this franchise is going to continue in regard to more Pokemon movies, which I do think they should make more Pokemon movies, they need to make it like the games. I don't think you'd be able to get the kind of budget for a series, but if this could be a Netflix show, great. If this could be about a group of friends traveling around the different regions, collecting badges, capturing Pokemon, doing all of that in live action in a Netflix show, that would be great. Because I don't think you'd be able to fit all of that in just a movie, but you know, it could be like, you want to know a good idea for a Pokemon movie, for a Pokemon live action movie? You do like a Harry Potter in Pokemon. And what I mean by that is you got a group of friends and they have these different movies and they grow up with the movies. They grow up with the progression that they make through this world of Pokemon. And I think that would be really great. I think this laid the groundwork. I think that this is going to tell the studio that yes, this does work, that people do want more of this sort of thing, live action Pokemon. And I think that this will thrive. I think so. I just don't think that they need to do specific stories like this. Again, just complicated stories that are based on something that they had to get into. The movie. I think that the only reason that this was the first movie was because it was already a pre-made story. It was already a pre-made concept, and they just thought, well, we'll just slap it together because we can make some money. But now that it's done, now that it seems to be doing fairly well, I think that we can move on to make an actual Pokemon movie. Because I'll say this out and out right now: Detective Pikachu is not a good Pokemon movie. It's not. And honestly, it's not a very good movie either. It's not, again, not bad, just not great. It's honestly a C. You don't need to rush out and go see it. It's good to see those live action depictions of Pokemon, but again, the plot is bad, the characters are bad, the dialogue's bad, the script is bad, all that's bad. But visually wise, it's pretty interesting. And it's got some really great concepts that I think will work well when they do eventually make more Pokemon movies, which I really think that they will. They got a pretty good start going on here, and I think that they should really keep it going. So that's it. That's my opinion on Detective Pikachu. If you disagree with my opinion, or if you agree with my opinion, go ahead and leave me a comment down below. Be sure to give me a like and share me around with people if you want to share my opinion with other people. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at @the_1_nerd. That's @the1nerd. You can also check out my writing. I'm always looking to write new things, script-wise and what have you. I'm actually in the middle of writing 2 scripts for a contest that I have going on right now that requires a spec script for a comedy and drama series. I'm actually retooling my spec script for Bob's Burgers, which you can already see up on the website, and right now I'm writing a spec script for a Law & Order SVU episode. Not to spoil anything, but I'm thinking about doing a SVU episode with a rip from the headlines version of the case of a certain voice actor. So that's all I'll say about that. But if you're interested in following that, I'm always looking to post new stuff on the website at the1nerd.com, and of course updates on my Twitter. And if you want to drop me a line for any reason, a private line for whatever reason, just want to say hey, or just have some opportunities in regards to screenwriting or any kind of writing whatsoever, then you can email me at contact@the1nerd.com. I appreciate you guys all, sitting through this video with me and listening to my opinion, and I hope you'll join me next time for all the other video content that I have planned out, not just for more reviews, but just a whole bunch of other variety stuff that I have involved with nerds. I really want to make my get back into the game, as it were, and try to show that I have a personality, and I have a vision, and I have the creativity to make it not just on YouTube, but in all facets of entertainment. Not to I should stop now. I'm starting to sound like a pretentious douchebag. So this is the One Nerd, and that's been my opinion.